Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. This is your August reading. I'm reading for all the signs all together for August. That's so that I'm able to catch up speed with everything and have a good end of the year. So I hope that so far your summer's gone well and that your circumstances and problems are dissipating quickly and you're seeing your way through to healthy and pragmatic solutions for yourself and other people around you. I hope you're keeping aware of world events and how they affect people that you may not know and contextualizing that within your own framework. I think that's really important. I think it's really important that you do so that people who don't have anyone who thinks about them have someone who is there to be there for them, or even in spirit or in mind. So these people could be people you're not even aware of. I saw a post about someone saying, I think the reason why I haven't posted in a while, and there's lots of reasons, part of it is I'm really busy or whatnot, but besides that, I'm somebody who really enjoys philosophy or kind of deep thinking and kind of, you know, all sorts of different ideas. And so I saw this video, and I don't know, I'm not going to reference it because I don't like it. And again, and it's very popular, so lots of people say the same thing. That basically people should spend time with people who are at a higher vibration, or people who do better than them, or seek out the company of successful people, whatever they conceive success to be. And I think that that's a reflection of a gain mentality, like to seek out gain and prosperity, and very individualistic kind of philosophy that has to do with, you know, benefiting yourself and trying to find other people that will help you. And I think that it's a good practice for some in order to address their needs or whatnot. But I think a really good practice is also to be open to all sorts of different experiences and tolerant to the variety, and be friends with people or reach out to people who would be considered of a lower social economic status than you, or maybe even a lower social economic status than yourself, or maybe even a lower socioeconomic status, and then also maybe somebody who doesn't live up to your expectations of what success is. Lessons are not planned in life, and lessons are not learned, and so lessons are learned in everything. And so I think that being mindful of the fact that there's a breadth of experience that we can achieve, and it's not only solely from people who bring us up, but it's the reciprocity. Our world is in decay right now because we anticipate to use others to rise up in our own, you know, mythology of our own journeys. And I think that it's really important to keep in mind that even if you don't see that person struggling in front of you, if you don't see that person, you know, that doesn't mean that they're not there. And that's specifically speaking to people in nations where there's mass poverty. Tonight I saw a video on Haitian children who are fed dirt cakes, and we shared that on Facebook, and it's a very powerful video. And I think that there needs to be more awareness to the great poverty and suffering in the world, and it's not all about who can get us higher, it's about how can we bring this world into equilibrium before it reaches bad places. So yeah, sorry it's a little bit of a rant. Obviously I'm upset about the children, but yeah, hold on. Anyway, sorry about that. So it's a hard topic to talk about, and I hope you guys give it some time and attention, and yeah, and you know, I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing. I know that for August in my videos, but I know that in August I'm going to do one video, and it's going to be like my year preview video, which many of you haven't seen. So if you like this reading for everyone, then check out the January video, because that video is still relevant today and it'll give you a lot of insight for your aspects. So I hope that gives you awareness and attention. And so I'm doing this reading out of sync with my other responsibilities, and I'm just doing one in August in order to be able to be authentic towards everyone, and I feel that it is within balance. And so for those of you who are viewing this and who have competing, you know, have a competing interest with me in some way, or that we have you know, a project or whatnot that we're working on, I hope that you're thankful for, you know, the video, and I hope that we can complete whatever kind of commitments we have to each other respectfully. So yeah, I hope you get a lot out of this reading. I feel like it's the right time, and sometimes my best way to communicate is to take some time off and decompartmentalize all the stuff that I've taken in, and I think that that's a good habit for everyone to do. So not to force yourself to speak all the time, but also find substance to speak about. And I hope I can reflect that for you guys today, and have like a richer experience, because so that it's not so superficial, and so that it brings togetherness for everyone. So yeah, sorry it's just one video for everyone. I hope everyone finds resonance in it in some way. The reading is a higher arcana reading only, which means that we have only higher arcana cards laid out in a way so that sorry, okay, in a way so that it impacts all of you in a positive way. Remember, my readings are for fun and entertainment, so I hope you guys do take everything with a grain of salt. But take the world events seriously, and take them with, you know, attention, and feel like you can do something about it. Because, for example, in Greece, and this is the last thing I'll say, but with Greece there was a campaign to raise money to help bail Greece out, and only $2 million or pounds were raised, and which was not even 1% of what they were asking, which was, I'm not sure if it was $1 billion or $2 billion, and that was out of scope of what Greece really needs, which is about $60 billion. And so that gives me perspective on how many of you care but don't know how to access, or don't feel empowered to be able to channel that care into ways to facilitate change for people. And so it can be very daunting and overwhelming to see a world with so many issues and so many conflicts and paradoxes and conflicts of interest. And I hope you guys find your way through it, and I hope that you guys are able to work your way through those paradoxes in an authentic way, and find, you know, beauty, and help promote beauty around you, and not only seek beauty from those above you, but also seek beauty from those below you as well. All right. Okay, so I've shuffled the cards with all this intention, and so now I'm going to just lay them out, and then we'll talk about the reading, okay? So it actually fit. I used to think that using big cards was a good idea, but little ones are actually really nice too. And I don't mean to sound too preachy, guys. It's just really on where my heart's at right now, and I hope that you guys like it. Alrighty, so here we go. And I'll go through this, you know, in general terms, and I am going to take more time with this reading, so sorry if you find that annoying. I'm always trying to do the best work that I can, and yeah, so if you don't like, you know, the methodology, chances are I'm going to change it anyway, but send me a private message even with your thoughts or suggestions. You know, it's not a good idea to leave negative comments on YouTube. It creates like a bullying environment for people, so I'm sure most of you don't want to create that kind of environment for the people who are making such great content for you. So I really encourage you not to troll or say negative things in public. Maybe send a message to that person instead privately, so they can think about it or reflect or answer or not, and give a person space, because it takes a lot of time and effort to create these things. I guess this is like a reading slash journal. You know, it's a different reading than I've done anywhere else, so again, don't criticize me. I'm just trying to create something good. Okay, so at the center of the reading we have the Devil, which suggests that maybe this is a washing out of some kinds of inauthenticities or inauthentic experiences, and I think that maybe that's kind of stepping in, and it's covered by the Tower, which is interesting because together that's a very vibrant set of circumstances, and you know, things are shifting and changing, and they're clearing out. And they're clearing out for the better, and the outcome is greater power. So it's literally the phoenix rising out of the ashes, or being taken out of the cage or that you are in. And so there's an escape. And so that escape is through basically abandonment of whatever it is that stops you or blocks you from achieving your higher purpose. And so there's a tolerance, and some of it is going to look as if you are compromised, and some of it's going to look like there is great injustice being done onto you. And even in moments of great injustice, now, I don't want to, you know, those of you who are going to or have suffered great injustices, it's so hard to explain certain concepts with respect to everyone's experience. So just remember my words very, you know, tentatively, and everything's a paradox, and so therefore, if everything is paradoxical, then each statement can be essentially negated and be true itself as well. So if you have a strong negative opinion, explore that and think about that as well. But these negative experiences can carry with them liberating forces as well. And so an experience in and of itself can be negative, while at the same time, around that, there could be a lot of positive things coming out of it. And so the strength that you could use potentially in this circumstance is to foster growth potentials around whatever it is that is troublesome for you. And that could be internal, or it could be external influences. It's really important to kind of keep in mind that these are archetypes, and so archetypes mean that this will reflect your life through various means, over the next while. And this isn't just for August, this isn't just for the end of July, this is for a while. These readings are thematic and they're not necessarily set on a time scale, but I will mark it for August so you guys have a reference point. But anyway, so there's several different ways which this will manifest. So you could very well find yourself in an opportunity to address bad eating habits, or maybe there's an opportunity for you to reform something and gain better strength for whatever it is that is imposing upon you. And so there's a liberation, while at the same time remnants of that will remain with you and will be something that that will be a philosophical, it will stir you philosophically, it will stir you philosophically, and it will give you food for thought for a while. Whether it's good or bad, it's gonna create you know, a trigger or be a muse for whatever it is. And I think that this muse type of relationship that you have to these array of experiences, some of them will be very jovial and fun. Remember, the devil is often associated with mirth, particularly in Celtic and pagan and neo-pagan traditions. The Pan, or the devil, is a positive figure, so with respect to people who have those belief systems, it's often important to recognize that Pan can be quite having fun or really enjoying oneself and, you know, being carefree. This is also the onset of responsibilities, where on the one hand you're enjoying kind of a carefree life, and within that carefree life maybe there's some awareness that you are achieving, and within that awareness you are gaining epiphanies, and epiphanies give light to a higher information about who you are. There's so many new YouTube channels with people reading cards and all this, and you know, some of it is just people making money, and some of it is people really seeking out higher truths and wanting to communicate and having a platform to do that in, and that's wonderful. You know, all of it, you know, even the most I don't know, everything that you put into the world will be an addition to it. And even if it's not, I don't know, even if it's not justifiable. And so therefore there's a general cleansing of spirit that's going on now, and an awareness being given. So therefore this is a great time to explore and really develop your pan awareness of yourself and those around you, and having that awareness not only for your own experience. Okay, so this is something else that's coming up, is that it's not only your own awareness, but it's also the awareness of the plight of other people around you, and beyond what you even conceive, because you could think of yourself as a thoughtful person, someone who considers other people's experiences, but these sets of experiences that these two cards are talking about are going to give you awareness of experiences that you had never even conceived. So for example, like I mentioned before, the dirt cakes that kids eat, you know, something that to this before today I didn't know anything about, and so it's a very humbling sort of experience. Although you do understand, I know, you know, Eastern European history where people were fed sawdust bread, so it's not the only place that it happened, but the fact that, yeah, Anyway, sorry, I'm still traumatized by it and trying to process it. And so yeah, so it's the awareness of things that are outside of your field of vision and having that awareness brought in, and it's a very humbling experience. At the same time, we have to think about all the permutations of this card. It could actually signify that there is some real, you're up against some real injustice that's being waved over you, and so, you know, any kind of interaction with unjust persons of authority, it's a really good idea to veer away from at this time and not engage. And so an idea comes to me that if somebody you interact with who gives you like shivers on the back of your neck, you should really be cautious of at this time. So it's not the time to probe those types of relationships. They're not going to, you're not going to resolve anything. And that's what the devil's saying. You're not going to, and if you engage in very conflictual relationships at this time, then you give them more power to destroy more for you. And so therefore, not a good time to probe that. Okay, so we beat that center part with a stick, but I think it's important when people get this reading from me privately, they ask about you know, a placement of cards, because all the trumps are here, and so it's important to, excuse me, and so it's important to sorry, it's important to recognize that it's important to recognize that all the cards come up in a certain order, and these cards came up in the center, and so those cards being in the center signify that their importance and everything. This is the Wheel of Fortune, and so in the center we have the spoke, or the thing holding it all together, and so therefore it's important. Yeah. So yeah, there's not one card that's out of place here, and I hope that it's speaking to a lot of people. It's archetypes, right? So they're very important. Anyway, so at the top of the reading, and what's the kind of evident path people will seek, or the true path of one's day-to-day experience, particularly amongst people. I think that we have the Emperor, which is issues of sovereignty, issues of industry, business, and domain sort of acquirement. And I don't mean internet domain, although that may mean that. It really has to do with like one's place, and usually it's a well-earned place. So there's a suggestion that there's already an established order, and that makes sense with all the changes that had happened since you know, March of this year. There's been a lot of shifts, and so things needed to calm down because they were really still turbulent after April and May, and so things calmed down and sorted themselves out, and they have to shift back into place. So there's a new world order in place right now, and that's for each individual and collectively. And so we're seeing the framework of that. So most of you have had or are experiencing, you know, outwardly an establishment of this new set of rules, or the new reality that you're dealing with. And so that's modified by the High Priestess and the Lovers. And so the High Priestess is the person who has insight and has reality understood from outside and from within. And so the Lovers has to do with partnerships of the souls, partnerships of a spiritual nature, and a kinship. And so the Emperor is modified through the awareness of the High Priestess and the Lovers, which tells us that your relationships will be fundamentally deeply rooted at this time, but also bearing great truths. So therefore, primary relationships, or not primary relationships, the relationships that are truly around you now are uplifting. And this is why, you know, sometimes that speech before that I gave, it's already a part of the reading. So I hope you rewatch it, and I hope you get benefit out of that as well. And so yeah, so there's the New World Order is established within a framework of some very good support cards, and that is an establishment of good rapport with the right people, and then also hearing the truth from people. So you're not going to be apt to hear niceties at this time, although if what you need is a nicety, you'll hear that as well, because there's that understanding of within and from outside. But the High Priestess is suggesting that you are going to hear the truth that you need to hear. So if you hear truth that is egregious to you and makes you upset in some way, it's important to recognize it and sit with it and process it. And if it gets overwhelming, then seek the help of a trained professional to do that process with. And that will only establish and reaffirm your position and your strength in what you do, whatever it is that you do. And it will only affirm your strong bonds, and your strong bonds with those around you will only reaffirm the other positions. In sort of way, this is a trifecta, you know, a congealment of different approaches and thoughts. And the Emperor is going to have this kind of bird's eye view and an ability to manage. And so manage is also the ability to lead or to follow the lead of others, because we can't have a world, everybody's watching this video, so we can't have a world full of emperors who have, everybody has his sole mission as to lead. And so therefore the Emperor, you know, is and so the Emperor is established through not only leadership but also servitude. And so therefore there needs to be some real awareness of the world that we create and the world that we are living in, and take ownership and responsibility for that social world. So so that's, you know, being conscious of the products that you buy and where they're manufactured, and how those countries treat their workers, how much those people get paid, and maybe taking sacrifices and buying fewer items as a trade-off for supporting higher equity in terms of wage and employment, whatever values that you want to represent. So you want to reinforce that authenticity with the awareness. The awareness is there, and those epiphanies are going to come to you. You are going to understand the reality of what you're dealing with, and so within that reality you have to give it, you know, you have to give it, you know, due course. And also there will be two people who will have great influence on you right now, and that's the archetype of the Lovers or the Brothers, and that could be the sign of Gemini, but not for everyone. But it is that theme of kinship, so anybody bringing forward ideas of kinship, and then also individuals who are giving you rational truth and ideas or suggestions about the way things should be, and giving you enlightenment and clarity on the circumstances, and giving you a forthright rendition of what the right path is. So be humble in their presence, because they're there to serve you, and we're going to do that for each other at this time. So this triad is very positive, and it's suggesting a real balance between people and coming together and working together to individual goals, but those goals being also collective. So below the surface we have the Hanged Man, and that's modified by the Wheel of Fortune and by Strength. And so this is a personal journey that everybody's taking, and a personal journey that's revolved around being held back from where you want to be. So I think that with all these transitions, all these epiphanies, huge monumental changes, at the same time we are going to feel as though we can't progress in whatever it is that we are pursuing, major projects and huge goals that we are trying to achieve. And so within these goal sets or ideas, we're going to be feeling thwarted, as if something that is supernatural is putting a brake on things, and that's gonna feel frustrating for some people, and it's going to feel as though it's unjust, or that it's not within the field of your understanding, or an inability to grasp why this is happening. It's oftentimes it's not something that you outright want to give up. It's something that's an inconvenience, but it's not something that you are going to be completely taken out of the race over. It's just a pause, and it's an inconvenient pause. And so within that inconvenient pause, you feel as though frustrated. It's like being put on a timeout, and your parent understands the timeout, but at 5 years old you don't necessarily always understand. But there's that respect for authority and the willingness to participate in that circumstance in the way that it's mapped out for you, and having respect for the rules of the game. And in fact, the more tolerant that we practice being, and this is on a personal level, just remember that that tolerance is going to manifest through positive outcomes. So for circumstances that need more time to work themselves out, even if we rationally do not understand why it's taking so long, we have to be tolerant at this time. And so yeah, so tolerance and patience. And that's modified by the Wheel of Fortune and Strength, which is such an uplifting set of circumstances. I'm going to pause the video now because it's timed out, but and then I'll begin why it's a positive set of circumstances. You guys are going to see this with pretty much instantaneously. Alright, so we have Wheel of Fortune is modified by the Strength card. And so Wheel of Fortune is the, high gains and lift that life throws your way. And so maybe you're so far ahead of like the sink of things on a personal level that you need that time out in order for that set of circumstances to catch up within the flow of events that are going on for you. I sense, or I think, that there's supposed to be some kind of misstep between where you need to be and between where you are, and this is kind of the medicine that you need at this time. Maybe ideologically you've gotten too far away from yourself, and so there's a scaling back, and that scaling of back is actually providing more fuel for the fire. And so with that, it gives you more opportunity to grow with greater ferocity moving forward, which is really positive. Now the Strength card to me is very special. It really signifies baseline instincts and our animal nature, our reptilian brains, and the source code, or like the complete natural state of our being. outside of that, of the constructs of our political and socio-political systems. So the representations of our true instincts and the natural response, which is honest. And so within this framework, we have great opportunity to grow as individuals. We have great opportunity to take on new perspectives, again, feeding off the center, and a great ability to be closer and more attuned to our natural path or our natural way of being. There's some theorists who presuppose that instead of progress, we've been actually digressing as a species. And so therefore, we live in a modernist society, and it's different. Different people believe different things, but it seems as though we have this conception that bigger is better. And so the scaling, some theorists suppose, or are deconstructed or have reconstructed, that actually the opposite is true. We're destroying the earth, we're creating havoc, and there's actually maybe greater dangers that we're manifesting through things like what's the word? Artificial intelligence, right? Or other technical things that we are doing. There's a place in Spain, maybe not in Spain, but there's a set of islands, and they've managed to duplicate a particle from one spot to a next, so teleportation basically of one particle, but there's a complete loss of the original particle, and that same particle shows up 200 kilometers away. And that's like breakthrough science right there. So maybe we've gotten too far away from ourselves, and maybe this is an opportunity to get back closer to what matters and what's important. And that opportunity gives us more ability to get in touch, and maybe some of those opportunities, for those of you who have been struggling to find opportunity, maybe this is going to be a process that's going to connect you with those things. Not to say that you are deserving of lack of opportunity. Nobody is. And not to say that there's a specific formula on how to achieve it either. I really don't like these, how-tos, because everybody's how-tos is different. And that's why this kind of video is very hard to do, because you want to make sure that you're not alienating anyone, and just by saying anything you are essentially alienating anybody's experience. So I think that's my number one message in this video, is that the tolerance of difference is important. And so yes, on a personal level, there's going to be a request for you to sacrifice some of your own ambitions. And within that process, there'll be a meditative state that you realize what some of the higher ambitions that you never thought you had maybe, and it will be a very humbling experience, resulting in a resultant of greater opportunity and more natural experience in line with who we are as people and what is reflective of ourselves as individuals. In the past, we've had the Last Judgment modified by death and the star. And so the Last Judgment is a drawing of boundaries, and the Last Judgment in this position is very, very important. Usually when I read this part, I don't place high emphasis on this because it's the past. It's past how it's affecting us. So although it rings true for people, I don't think that it necessarily, sometimes it brings perspective, but I think that at the same time as it brings perspective and shines kind of the light on everything, it's inherently understood by everybody, so you don't need to especially everybody has to come to their own conclusions about those events, and they already know what those events are, and so therefore, you know, to speak too much about it limits their experience or interpretation of that. And I'm saying that so you do try to grasp your own interpretation of circumstances over that of what somebody else is telling you. And, you know, I get a lot of people wanting readings. I get a lot of people who contact me for readings, and so many times I'm encouraging people to have their own interpretation, seek out their own answers. While at the same time, a reading is great for reflection, fun. It's really important to have your own perspective, but it's also helpful to have another person's perspective. But there is a large tendency for people to be seeking an outside mirror for what they can't see. They want that bird's eye view, you know? And so in the past, there is a drawing of boundaries from what was before, and that's going to be gone forever, to what's in the future. And what's gone before is it's dead and done, and something new has been reborn, and that's really signified by the Death card and by the Last Judgment. So there is a salvation at the same time as there is an ending, and that's a corollary, to events that must happen. These events that are, again, I don't want to say, because some of you may have experienced great difficulties or real barriers to health, health and success or prominence or whatever shocking things that happened. It's hard to justify, and it's outside of our field of vision as human beings to actually justify and say, this is fated, this was meant to be. That's a judgment call we as humans don't have from any perspective, unless you're like a humanist, or some kind of, in reality, pretty much all religions take that away, and it's for good reason, because it's intolerant to think that we can define those things. It's intolerant towards ourselves. And so therefore, when I say this, that it's fated, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is fate. But it's something of significance, and I do get the sense that for the majority, and this is a truism really, that when something ends, something more authentic begins. And in nature, nature turns towards growth and prosperity, and it's competition for resources. And so therefore, that is a natural progression of things. It's only when things are in competition between bacteria and people, when they suffer illness or virus or anything else, then there's a retraction. But things on its own, they prosper at all times. Although that can be really broken down too, because there's not one type of bacteria. We live with bacteria all the time. But in the past, there is a definition. I'm getting lost in terminology. I'm getting lost in trying to be respectful for everybody's experience, because I do get a sense that there's a real strong cessation of things from the past. What did I begin this reading with? And I know it's a long reading, but what did I begin this reading with? I began the reading with suggesting that there's a new world order. And so within that new world order set of epiphanies, what was in the past, you have to let go of, and what you have to embrace is what is at the present. And those who adapt in the best ways possible, those who embrace what is now, they will be the ones who have a greater chance of gaining. It's work time, essentially. It's time to work. It's time to giddy up. It's time to get with the program and pull up those socks and go for it, and allow the things of the past to wash away, and those of the present, the things that stick with you, the things that are here, as of right now, Those things that are with you right now are here with you for a reason. And those things that are gone, and you know what those things are already, because it's in the past that's been defined. It's already very clearly defined for you. Those things from the past, those things in the past are gone, and you are done. And with being done, you know, you're going to have new opportunities and new breakthroughs, and you're going to identify those things, and you are going to be supported, and you will experience frustration because you're still trying to fit everything in. So let's look at moving forward, and this is the very optimistic kind of perspective. And here we have the sun modified by the high priest and then the empress. And so the sun is associated with happiness and again nature and growth and the natural state of euphoria of the world, of happiness and safety, security, having Maslow's primary needs met, and you can move forward and grow up the ladder of things that you had needed. And so with that, there's a great opportunity for many of you to join in groups with other people towards specific goals and towards achieving those goals as communities. Some of you might get married, and I know that's a truism because everybody at some point, not everyone, but many of you experience, you know, marriage. Many of you experience all sorts of things. Other people will form great bonds with religious institutions. Others will get bonded with, in a positive way, with government institutions, and you will blossom as creative beings in those environments. This is an opportunity for you to engage with other people based on non-business ideas and prosper in that creative environment. That the purpose of this is learning higher purposes and goals, and not things of industry, which is your social environment, which is a bit contradictory, but there's a light switch over. This is to do with maybe more structural, material things, whereas this has to do with maybe more nuanced things, or maybe non-temporal things. They're hard to identify because our society kind of undermines their validity. But I think it's going to be a lovely experience for you all to have going through this process. And while going through this process, you will learn how to identify those things. And we're all in a state of learning this process, or this enlightenment state, and having a blossoming of yourselves. For women out there, this is a great time to be a woman. For men, this is a time to really kind of rule, but rule in such a way as that's comfortable for you and authentic for you. For some men, you know, there's different levels of that. So gender is such a big issue right now that it's, you know, it's important how to express those things. But moving forward, there's a great blossoming, and there's a great blossoming and an expansion and an ability to prosper, and women will feel very beautiful at this time, no matter where you're starting off from. This is a time of beauty and kind of joining together, but in authentic and genuine and honest ways. So this is a very healthy environment that you want to be a part of. It's an environment that feels good, that feels right, and that lifts you up and is very creative and very positive. Okay? So we love this card in this position because this is the position of you, and this is just like the traditional Celtic cross. And here we have the Chariot card, which is signifying the transition of one state of life towards a next, the improvement of circumstances and the elevation of one's path and one's spirit. And so therefore, in this position, there's a championing of your goals and your meta-narratives in your life. So the large stories that dominate your day-to-day experience, the large stories that mean a lot to you individually, and the large stories that mean to you collectively through your individual perspective, are going to be affirmed, and you're going to transition from one state to a better state. You've gotten the approval to move on, or you've earned your approval to move on, or maybe you've just been lucky enough to be thwarted enough on a personal level to move on. There is no formula in these things, and there isn't a magic answer. There's only tools and strategies and lenses that we can take. And so within these lenses, we can transition from one state to a healthier state, a more natural state, in line with what God, which is the Sun, wants us to be. And so I say that openly, you know, towards everyone. And so, yeah, so we transition. This is a time for some of you who will really mirror the characteristics of Cancer people who have set a huge impression on you in your life. And so you might be mimicking some of their traits, and some of the traits of Cancerian people that are so much a blessing and so much elevated and a lift have to do with tolerance and acceptance and allowing things to be as they are. That's why they're sometimes so still, because it's a difficult thing for them to sometimes. Well, a lot of the struggles, and I wasn't trying to explain things to you, is reflective of this. Now, the friends and family position. So this is your social environment, which is acquaintances and just the common outside world. This is people who are closer to you. Justice. So fairness is going to be dealt, and the playing field is going to be leveled out at this time for your family, for your friends. This is a very healthy card to have in this position because it allows for movement forward in good ways. More often than not, and the way that I interpret it, is something that's been unfair towards you is becoming fair. And so whatever it is that has been done onto you that has not been fair is the playing field is going to be leveled in a positive way, a constructive way. Now that could be through just discussion, and you might be able to make other people's perspective known. But remember what the warning here, that if these are people who are close to you, these are people who are good for you, this is the good people. Here we have that warning about not probing the devil at this time, not challenging them at this time. That doesn't apply here, so know that distinction. But there is a ability to bring justice and fairness and equity to those around you and your interactions with other people. You may realize that those around you are achieving levels of fairness in their own lives, and a primary interest for you at this time becomes the fairness that they should experience. So you become hyper aware of the unfairness that they had experienced in their lives, and how that unfairness needs to be reverted. So that becomes your preoccupation, what you get preoccupied with about other people's experiences, what is fair for them. And that's really lovely. That's a great state of awareness for everyone to share in and find, you know, kind of peace and tolerance in. What you're hoping for or afraid of is the greater world. And so the greater world, the complexity of it, and I get the sense that many of you are feeling thwarted vis-a-vis the greater demands of, you know, the modern age, how we're bombarded with so much information day in, day out, just processing information, and it's, you know, it's encouraged to be as smart as possible. It's encouraged to expand your knowledge base and to be intellectually dense, you know. And so the simple and the basic, they're concepts that we're moving away from, particularly Google and internet, such wonderful tools. I mean, the sideline of that is that we're constantly able to answer every single question. And you know, like tonight I made zucchini for myself in the microwave, and I would have never known how long to microwave it for, but thanks to Google I had my answer in like 2 seconds, right? So constant levels of information are being fed to us, even if they're simplistic, like microwaving zucchini, vis-a-vis, you know, complicated topics like learning about our bodies and our minds, and having a greater grasp of the themes that we've been told outside of us for so long. So taking the ownership, you know, over that. But then at the same time there's a great expansion, while at the same time there's a great awareness of the external as being vast, and the vastness is giving us open eyes, just like those dirt cookies, you know. So yeah, those understandings can have positive and negative effects on us, but that's where our primary focus or our awareness is going to kind of tend towards. That's how, you know, amid everything else, that's what we're going to be responding to, the greater world and how that influences us and where that's taking us. The outcome here is the moon. So the general theme of the reading is moon. And the moon is Pisces. And so or is the moon? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, the moon is the shared and the subconscious influence on us, the state of being inspired, the state of being inspired, and the state of being without words for the thoughts that we are having. So it's experiencing the state of paradox, and experiencing the state of unknowingness, but knowing on a different way than we know how to. And so all the lessons, they remain with you, and those lessons are going to be vibrant and important for you at this time. Well, at the same time, the conclusions of those are going to be way above what your conceptualization of this is, of anyone's conceptualization. There's no, you know, the only higher order, the only person that knows is the high priestess. And that's why when she says things to you that you are not compliant with or understanding on, you show respect for those perspectives and those ideas, and you do not come into conflict with them, because even if they're hard to swallow, it's better than the consequence of not not understanding or not giving them respect. And so therefore the moon is giving us an ability to look at the shadow, or look at the flip side of things, and look at you know, beyond the hyperextension of our you know, sun dominance. We're gonna take a look at the moments of deep sleep that we don't remember. And so it is within that context that we have like an unspoken language within ourselves and with each other. And so within that part of state, half our lives essentially that we are not consciously aware of, there's going to be a conversation that happens, and that conversation is going to be extremely significant, and there's nothing that you can essentially do around or about it. It's one that you have to apply tolerance and patience to, and you can't push it along because it's not going to, it has its own way. It's already decided what it's going to do. So again, I'm going to reset the camera and do a last part. Hey, so this is your last part of the video, and in this last part we're going to talk about the four corners, and the four corners being the next seasons. So with August, let's start in the fall, winter, spring, and then next summer. So this is the transition of the next 4 seasons, roughly speaking. We can count August as the end of summer, so we can just start wherever we like. It's a long story, right? And so within this story we have the hermit, and the hermit has perspective and enlightenment, the ability to withdraw and to study and self-study. I think that many of you will be aware of this journey you're embarking, and by the autumn you will be aware. And the fall is such an inappropriate term in so many ways. It reflects the end of things. And the autumn is not the end of things, it's the amalgamation, or like the mediation of all the impressions that we've had throughout the year before we settle down to like a semi-hibernative state over the winter time. And so therefore the hermit is going to be reflective and studious and seeking inner wisdom and knowledge. And it's going to be really individual study that people embark. This is going to be a quiet time in terms of socializing, and socializing at that time will not be focused around, it's going to be flippant, it's going to be just jovial and superficial, and the real work is going to be done on your own. At this time in autumn, Virgo people, happy birthday Virgos, they're going to have a big influence on you in your life. They will present you with thoughts and ideas, and those thoughts and ideas will come from genuine places. So be thankful for when they come for you, if they do. And then also at the same time, the primary message of the autumn is for you to gain perspective on your own experiences and gain breadth of experience, gain wisdom and knowledge, and expansion into who you want to become, and having that mentality of who you want to become or what you are becoming, and having clarification of your core values will be very rewarding at this time. It will be very peaceful, quiet, a great resource, better resource than anything else that you can direct yourself at this time. So there may be a tendency to pull away from everything else that we've talked about, but at the same time, there's going to be that pulling away is kind of the antithesis of everything that you know that is happening, and so moving forward, you need that to happen. You need that drawing away step in order to be able to bring forward more more genuine and more genuine and true, experiences or outcomes. And so it's the whole process of of a discourse that you're having within your own life. Okay, and so in the winter time, we have a great opportunity to mediate conflicting impressions that we've had. So in the winter time will be a time to really weigh out everything and filter through everything. So don't feel the pressure in the autumn to have to give that discerning eye, although the hermit can be quite discerning and have very strong opinions about things. Those opinions have a lot to do with perseverance and personal perseverance, whereas this is a more tolerant approach of a greater inspired mediation of circumstances. So this temperance card is associated with Sagittarius, and so maybe Sagittarian people can come in and inspire you with their take on what true mediation of interests is all about. But at this time there'll be a great time of creativity over the winter time. So, write down your project ideas, generate them, and by the winter time you might be able to edit and fine-tune them to new wonderful products. The springtime is the Fool, which is a really nice card for the spring. It signifies a new beginning in a new direction. So all this hard work, this is the back end, and this is the front end. And so if you guys know what that is, the back end is kind of the works behind the curtain. And so this is like, the philosophy of practical learning, the hermit. And then we have temperance, which is the creative ability to mediate. And then in front of the curtain, what's going on is there's a departure, a new direction, and a blossoming of opportunities in new directions. And so you will be able to really take that on with the impressions and the learning of the past that will help you and direct you in positive directions. And aid you in positive directions, give you warning about those things that are not good. So it's a Fool, but it's an informed Fool who has some kind of background to everything, has some kind of background and perspective and context to everything. The outcome of the reading is the Magician. And with the Magician is the great power to create and manifest for yourselves what it is that you really need for yourselves, and I mean that beyond superficial needs. This is why I say this reading is extremely positive. A great new power, and all the sacrifices that you go through as this time goes on, the outcome is just greater power. This is the phoenix rising out of the ashes. So by next summertime, you have this great expansion and awareness of everything you've been through and how it's contextualized. Not that you're going through, not that everyone's going to go through just really humbling experiences. Some of you, those experiences are going to be nuanced and very kind of middle of the road. So don't expect, massive deluge or, a drought. So yeah, it might just be normal, but the outcome is a great empowerment and understanding of why everything happened and in the way that it happened. And there's going to be a great self-drive and an ability to direct yourselves and feel very powerful, and the ability to manifest whatever values you are seeking. And so you'll feel very empowered. Feeling very empowered, and the ability to do something about what it is that's going on for you. And it's all influenced by the moon. It's all influenced by the interconnectivity of experiences and the amalgamation of all the different nuances that you're putting into play, and bringing forward that in a powerful and enigmatic way with great influence on the world around you. For those of you who may have selfish aims, or maybe not good aims, I'll say this warning that everything I read could manifest for you getting those aims. And so I ask that you try to modify it and bring light to where there is, emotions or actions that you hope to act upon, or maybe that those places of negative ambition are thwarted, and that you don't let that beast out of the oven, because then it's just complicating things. And everybody has their own perspective, everyone has their own aims and goals, and so it's very hard when you're trying to when you're on the side of trying to find a better world for people and for yourself and your communities, how to communicate to people who have other ambitions than that. How do you convince them? How do you convince them that that's the better way? We like to say that that's the better way, but people don't think that. So therefore, if you're watching this and you feel like as though your ambitions then I hope that you vindicate yourself with that, and you start towards the journey of the light, or sorry to be so dramatic, but towards working good. Not that there is good and bad, that's a dichotomy that but in order to promoting life rather than obscuring it. All right. Well, instead of that, that's a hope for all of us, I guess. That's another thing to ramble on about, but don't think so high and mighty. We all have those things within us. So I guess that we all are brought into the light, and we are all taken out of the darkness, and whatever needs to be sacrificed in the process needs to be done so, and that we find community in the most appropriate places possible, as quickly as possible, so that transition happens for us in the most tolerant and peaceful and happy and life-affirming way. And in that process of escalation of our goals and ambitions, we look to others and encourage those people as well to participate. So, don't be too polite not to recognize somebody struggling and reach out that and compromise and be discursive and be challenging to the world around you and your own thoughts and beliefs. And don't be so polite as to turn your cheek all the time, because I don't think, just always think in paradoxes, always critique, always break it down, reconstruct it, seek the truth, and it will be yours. So yeah, that's my reading for you guys for August. I hope you don't mind the amalgamated reading for everybody, and I hope that you like the perspective for the oncoming 12 months or so. I will be reading every month, but I just thought this would be a nice way, and it'll allow me the time to catch up on all my responsibilities and gain more time for reconnecting with my own truths, some of which I've shared with you today, and I hope that your comments are filled with love and caring and tolerance for my own blind spots and my own hypocrisy, and that you've enjoyed this reading and you've enjoyed this time we shared together, and I'm just looking forward to painting and reading more for you guys, and I hope that this is the reset in a good direction, full of light and joy and authenticity, and more empowered directions. So thank you very much. I hope you don't mind the long video, and take care. Bye.